Next one here is from Deanna. Says, please, is this something new? And talks about here, something from the Alzheimer's Association, just talking about navigating treatment. And what they basically say is that you have two choices. You have drugs like Aricept, and then you have antibodies. And they talk about the antibodies, Aducanumab and lecanemab. Well, so the short answer here is no, it's not new. These drugs do not improve cognition. They simply cause a modest slowing. I'm talking now about the antibodies that they mentioned. They cause a modest slowing of decline with side effects of brain bleeding, brain swelling, and in some cases, death. So they're really, I think it's hard to recommend these drugs because they have such a modest effect. They're incredibly expensive, and they have such horrible side effects.
And many major medical organizations agree with us. Medicare has declined to pay for it. The Cleveland Clinic has declined to include it. MD Anderson said no. I forget.
Said no.
No one wants this. No one wants to use this medication that has an over 20% risk of a brain bleed as a side effect. I mean, it's crazy.
It is, I think it's unfortunate. And I think, unfortunately, it comes from an outdated view of what Alzheimer's is. The suggestion here is that Alzheimer's is nothing more than your brain made amyloid for some reason. Well, now we know why your brain is making amyloid. So let's remove the reasons instead of just trying to remove the amyloid. And I do think in the long run, after you've removed the problem that are causing the amyloid, going very slowly to remove the amyloid slowly, it is a mediator. It's essentially like a long-acting cytokine. It is part of the response that is inflammatory. It's trying to sequester your toxins and your pathogens from the rest of your brain. So it's, and it has an antimicrobial effect. So I get it. It's not a bad thought. But the idea of you just use it as a monotherapy and you put massive amounts and try to rip out the amyloid, which, by the way, is in your blood vessels, patching them and things like that, it is really an outdated concept that it just really no longer makes sense. So the only thing that's really pushing it right now is money coming from drug companies and things like that, unfortunately. And I should say the other group, the Aricept and things like that, there was a very nice 5-year study showing that if you look down the line, although they will give you a little bump at the beginning, if you look down the line, the patients who took them actually did worse overall than the patients who didn't take them. So for some people, and when we see people who are already on them, we typically just leave them on. But these are not wonder drugs, and they're not attacking what's actually causing the problem.